Okay, so we are going to do 6-3, which is dividing polynomials with long division. And our objective today is going to be just that. We are going to, oops, it could help if I could type. We are going to divide polynomials using long division. Okay, so this is going to be page 318 in your book. So let's first look at just, just dividing just regular numbers with long division, just to get kind of a reminder and all of that stuff. So let's do 326 divided by 3. So first you say, okay, 3 goes into 3 one time, and that's where the 1 goes. 1 times 3 is 3. You subtract, you get 0. You bring down the 2. 3 goes into 2 0 times, and 0 times 3 is 0. And then I bring down my 6, and 3 goes into 26 8 times, and I get 24 with a remainder of 2. So we have to think back to 3rd grade when we did this, and now we're going to actually look at it when it's a little bit more complicated, but we're using those steps, okay? Same thing, we subtract each time, we bring down, all of that stuff. So let's, so the directions are divide using long division. Okay? So the first problem that we have is 2x squared minus 17x minus 38 divided by 2x plus 3. Now this here is called your dividend, and this here is called your divisor. Now you have to use long division if your divisor's coefficient is something other than 1. Okay, we're going to look at a different kind of division tomorrow or next class, but so that just knowing that anytime x has a coefficient other than 1, you have to use long division. So I'm going to use a fresh screen. So I have my divisor and I have my dividend. Minus 38. Let me kind of erase this part here. Okay. So then, what you want to do, don't worry about this plus 3 right there, okay? We're really only worried about the 2x. And I want to know what times 2x gives me 2x squared, okay? So, x times 2x gives me 2x squared. So I'm going to put an x here. X times 2x is 2x squared. And then I do now have to worry about this. I have to do x times 3, and I get 3x. And now I have to subtract, but what I need you to understand is you're subtracting this whole thing. Okay, so because you're doing that, what I recommend is to actually change the sign. So basically, because I'm subtracting this whole thing, I'm going to distribute this negative to both. So that means what I've got here is I've got a negative 2x squared and a negative 3x. So I'm distributing that negative to both of them because I'm subtracting that whole binomial. Okay, so when I do that, and 2x squared, and now this is, so now it's been, that negative's been distributed, so now it's a positive. So 2x squared minus 2x squared is 0. That's your goal. You need to have a 0 when in the first term, okay? Then I have negative 17x plus negative 3x, and that gives me negative 20x minus 38. So again, your goal is that this first term will end up just totally eliminating. So now the next step is I have to ask myself, what times 2x gives me negative 20x. Well, negative 10 times 2x gives me negative 20x. So, and why did, you know what I just realized? I should not have put this x here. This x should go here because they should all be lined up. Like this is a linear term and that should be a linear term. I apologize for that. So what times 2x gives me negative 20x? That would be negative 10. Negative 10 times 2x gives me negative 20x. Your goal is for these two numbers here to match exactly, and they do. And then negative 10 times positive 3 gives me negative 30. And I need to subtract this whole binomial. So again, and what some people do is they will use their colors, is I'm going to distribute that negative. So when I distribute the negative, that now becomes positive. And so this now becomes positive, and then that becomes positive because I distributed that negative. So now I have negative 20x plus positive 20x, and that's 0. So that eliminates, which is my goal. And then I have negative 38 plus positive 30, and I get negative 8. So then I have a remainder of negative 8. There are two ways that you can write this answer. You can write it as x minus 10, remainder negative 8. Or you can write it as x minus 10 minus 8 over 2x plus 3. Now I got the 2x plus 3 from my divisor. You want to think about, like, for example, if I had 6 divided by 4, 4 goes into 6 once, and I have a remainder of 2, or I could write that as 2/4, so like 2 over the 4, which is my divisor. So that's another way to write it. Most people, in all honesty, write it like this. This is an option, so that's why I wanted to share that with you. It's not a very popular option, but it is an option. So I'm going to just stick to the x minus 10 remainder negative 8, mainly because to the ACT will ask, like, what's the remainder of this? So that way you know. Okay? Let's look at another one. I have 42x squared minus 33 divided by 7x plus 7. One thing I want you to note. Notice how in this problem there is no x. You have to have a space for it, okay? Think about it like at pin ceremony. Let's say somebody's absent, but they'll be there for pin ceremony itself. So at practice they're absent, but they need to have a place. Well, so usually in your practice, don't you leave a spot for that person, like where they're going to be sitting and all of that? That's what you kind of have to do here. So I'm going to actually rewrite this as 4x squared plus 0x minus 33, because I need to, once I have my highest degree, I have to go down from there. So I have to have 2, 1, constant. Okay, so you must have a space for everything after the highest degree. So I made a space and I made it 0. And so that is very, very important to put those placeholders in. Okay, you have somebody in their place. So let's actually go ahead and work on dividing this. Remember I had 42x squared plus 0x minus 33. Okay, so again, you're looking at this 7x, and you want to ask yourself, what times 7x gets me 42x squared? The answer to that is 6x. 6x times 7x gets you 42x squared. And then 6x times 7 gets you 42x. Here's another reason why we had to have that placeholder. This 42x here, it had to go underneath something, and that's the reason why you have to have a placeholder. So you might look at it and be like, well, it's no big deal. Actually, it's a huge deal. So now I've subtracted. I need to subtract, excuse me. So I'm going to distribute my negative to both. So that now becomes a positive. This is a negative, and that's a negative. Okay? So 42x squared plus negative 42x squared eliminates. 0x plus negative 42x is negative 42x, and I'm going to bring down my minus 33. So now I have to ask myself, what times 7x gets me negative 42x? And in that case, that's going to be a negative 6. So negative 6 times 7x gets you negative 42x, and negative 6 times positive 7 gets me negative 42. Again, I need to subtract this binomial. So what that means is I need to distribute that negative. So this now becomes a positive, and these signs change because I distributed a negative. So now I have negative 42x plus positive 42x, and that gets me 0. So that eliminates. And then I have negative 33 plus positive 42, and that gets me a positive 9. So my final answer will be 6x minus 6 with a remainder of 9. Okay, so I have one more piece to talk about with dividing polynomials, so that'll be in the next part.